pictures here, you know, your father's there, but I don't know whether they were in Cummins or Cumming or where the school was, but it looked like a class picture. You say he started teaching in Clare? No,
He started teaching in a one-room schoolhouse in Clare,
in Clare.
and we lived down the road from it.
Okay.
Was that the farm you were talking about?
No, that was Roscommon, but
No, we lived in a house that before we moved into it, it was across from a farm that was it was fully operating farm. But we were living in a house that the farmer across the road had been using for bean storage.
oh,
Okay.
And there were no quarter rounds.
Hmm.
You know, there was the floor,
Yeah.
and no floor,
No floor molding around?
no moldings at all.
Mhm.
So the crack between the floor and the wall, we'd get bean sprouts. And it had one bedroom it had a living room with a kerosene heater, one of these big old
yeah,
brown.
pot belly, yeah.
No, it was one of these brown, what's it called? That stuff that you also have pots and pans made out of that chips.
Oh, the enamel, yeah, enamel,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But it ran on kerosene.
well, as far as I know,
Yeah.
it ran
Well,
on
if
some.
you smelled it, it was
It was
kerosene.
it was some fuel
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And there was a bedroom off of that, which is my parents' bedroom, and then we must have slept on the couch in the living room.
Hmm.
And then there was the kitchen, which is the biggest room in the house, with a place to eat, and a kerosene cook stove,
Mhm.
and a little bedroom off of that, which once Roger was born, he slept. I guess he slept out there. I don't remember. But in the wintertime, they hung a bearskin rug, on the door between the kitchen and the bed in the living room,
Mhm.
and we pretty much lived in the kitchen,
Where it was hot.
where it was
Yeah.
warmest.
Yeah, warmest.
Hmm.
and there was the most room.
But
But-
do you mean you and your brother and your mom and dad all kind of
Yeah.
slept more in the kitchen area?
I
Well-
don't think my folks slept in the kitchen area,
Okay,
but
the kids did.
but during the day, that's where we lived.
Okay, yeah.
Well, not entirely. That can't be true, because Roger was born in February, and we were sent down to the neighbors while she had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And but Billy, who was the oldest one, put Donna's hands on the back of the hot stove in the living room.
Oh.
Somehow, in the time that we were there without the parents, I mean, he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, right, right.
And she wasn't damaged. She was, it was hot.
Shocked, yeah, yeah.
But he didn't like her.
Oh,
He
okay.
didn't like her. When she was born, he lost a lot by her birth.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
right, he went from
he-
number one to,
Yeah, he was no longer the baby, and he was no longer getting all the attention, and he didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came along, he didn't lose anything.
Mm.
So he was always my big brother,
oh, okay.
and he always looked out for me. And he and I would run off and leave Donna to take care of Roger. We'd go play. Ditcher.
Ditcher. So she was kind of stuck on the farm then.
That was in Roscommon when we were out at the farm. We didn't have anybody else to play with except each other, and Mom would be doing the wash or something, so we had our little brother to take care of.
Yeah, now, do you remember, I asked Roger and he didn't remember, but do you remember where the farm was located?
All right, the way that I don't remember exactly, but it seems to me as though the town, we were west and south of the town.
West and south of the town.
But I have, Doug, I have no idea. That's the way it seems
Oh,
to me.
you were very young.
Well, you were
Yes.
young, okay, so, yeah, west and south would have put you down this way then. Because if you go too far west, you end up at Higgins Lake. And in terms of the roads, there aren't that many roads out there.
Well, I don't even know what, we rode past it sometime when I was like in my early 20s.
Okay.
And we recognized the house, but I don't remember who found it and how we found it. My mother must have been with us.
Okay, now, did your dad own the farm, or did
No.
he rent it?
We rented it.
You remember from who?
No, it was a 40-acre farm.
Okay, 40 acres. Okay, 40 acres.
And it had a barn, and across the road was the woods, and we used to go find winter berries in there. We would walk sometimes from there to town.
So you could walk from there to town?
Yeah, but
I mean, a hike, but...
It was a hike.
Okay.
And this was at a time, when parents let the kids do things
Yeah.
different now.
Yeah, we know.
Hey, I used to ride my bicycle from Plymouth to Stark Road, too. I mean, first grade, but so it's on the west side, you say.
That's-
So evidently, when you would go to school in the morning or whatever, you would be heading into the sun, so that would be going east.
Maybe,
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't know,
west side.
that's just. When we drove out of the driveway, we went to the left.
Okay, so if you went to the left, then you would have been on the north side of the road then.
No, we
Okay.
did. The way that it seems to me was that we were on the west side of the road,
Okay,
and a north-south direction road. But I have
Okay.
no idea why I think that.
right. Yeah, because the road that goes out of town, military road, goes out of town from Roscommon to Higgins Lake. And you used to take that up to Grayling if you went that way. Okay, so, okay, well, since your father rented it, maybe we could find a location. But you didn't have any electricity.
Yeah,
It-
I think we must have had electricity.
Did you have electricity then?
We didn't have indoor plumbing.
No indoor plumbing.
No. I mean, if there was a kitchen sink, but there was an outhouse.
Okay.
There was a kitchen sink, but there was an out.
You didn't have to carry water into the house, or?
We had a pump, and I don't remember that we had to have that for the kitchen, but then I don't know that I would have been the one who
Yeah.
Who would have pumped
hauled
it?
it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had an operating pump out in the
Kitchen.
yard.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't remember I don't remember a pump in the kitchen.
Okay. Okay. And Roger said that you had goats. That's what he remembers.
Yes, we had goats.
Because he said he never had cow's milk until
That's right.
he moved down south.
Right. Right, we had goats.
Goats and chickens.
We had goats and chickens and a big truck garden. And our goats gave birth to other goats. We had kids. And it was our job to keep them out of the garden. So we take a stick and we try not to hit them on the spine because it hurt our hands.
Oh, the goats, yeah, right, yeah, they've got the spine sticking up like this, yeah.
Yeah, it goes. Oh, that hurt.
So actually your first job then was goat herder.
That's right.
Did you put that on your resume? So you weren't born in Roscommon, and you were born in
Cummins.
Cummins. Okay.
I was born in Cummins. I was the third one born in Cummins.
Third one born in Cummins, and we said that Roger was the youngest.
No, Norman
No.
Norman is the youngest.
Norma's the youngest.
Okay. Billy and Donna and Becca were all born in Cummins. And then we moved from Cummins to Clare, and Roger was born.
Okay.
And then we moved from Clare to Roscommon, and from Roscommon to Onstead, and Norman was born.
Okay.
Norman was born when my mother thought she was going through menopause. It would be a big surprise.
Big surprise. Big surprise. Okay, so actually you didn't move then from Cummins directly to Roscommon. You moved from Cummins to Clare and then
Right.
to Roscommon.
Right.
Okay. Now was your father teaching in Clare also?
Clare was where he taught in the one-room schoolhouse.
That's his first job,
That was
isn't it?
his.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a picture here of what Roger thought was the Harrison School. Was that in Clare?
That's Clare. And we went down there one Sunday, the whole family went down there one Sunday because Dad had to get something out of the school. And Donna and I were out in the back of the school, and Billy said, "You know the school board that Dad's always talking about? Well, that's it." And he pointed to this board in the ground,
Yeah,
laying on the
right.
ground.
Yeah.
School board.
Well,
School board, right.
That's the school
That's
board.
the school board.
And he always spoke with such authority. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he knew he was wrong or not.
Now, Roger said that was Alice's school where she taught.
That would have been in Cummins.
That would have been in Cummins?
Well, Roger, Mom's lived with Roger for a while, so they probably talked a lot more about the pictures than I ever did
Yeah.
with my mother.
Yeah, this is a picture of Cummins, and I tried to do what I could to... Roger said that if you look at the original picture, and whether he was making it up, I don't know, but there's smoke coming up from the schoolhouse. So evidently it must have been, cold enough to, and it wasn't the winter picture here.
Cummins was pretty much destroyed by a tornado on the 4th of July about 7 years ago.
About 7 years ago.
The house I was born in wasn't destroyed.
So the house you're born in is still in existence.
Of course.
What an awesome.
Nah, you haven't been by there lately though.
This was a house, Cummins was only 100 people, and it had a Mennonite church in it, a more liberal Mennonite church in it, and it was about 6 miles. It's about 6 miles from north from Fairview,
Fairview, right.
which is where my father's family lived.
Hmm.
They moved up there from Indiana when my father was still in school. And this is very poor land, nothing.
Right.
It is not farmland.
Low sand.
Yeah. It'd probably be good watermelon, but not much else. Anyway, my mother's oldest sister married a Mennonite minister, and he was at the Mennonite. He was at the church in Fairview, and my mother had finished college, and she decided. Yeah. So and she was going to be a teacher, so she went up to Cummins and lived with her older sister and her husband, and went to and taught at the Cummins School for 1 year. And she felt totally inadequate. She had kids of all ages, and she didn't know how to control the kids. And anyway, she felt totally inadequate, but she met my dad. That was the positive. She met my dad. I would not have known that this was Cummins.
Yeah, well, here's a two other pictures from Cummins. So obviously back then there wouldn't have been a blinker light like there was in Roscommon.
No, there wasn't a blinker light. Still isn't a blinker light. If you blink, you go.
Yeah, you missed it.
Missed it. See, I can't see in here where the church is. The church would be over here someplace, and our house would be like about there.
About
There.
okay.
It was on the west side of the road as you come into town from Fairview.
Okay, that looks like this is a north and south road.
Yeah.
And then so those houses over there would be on the west side.
Right. And the general store would have been maybe down here.
That looks about right. Yeah, down there.
Anyway, they lived in this house that when they left, they sold it for like $300 or $600 to a brother of my dad's. and my cousin, son of that brother, lives there now.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So you still
yeah.
have a distant, now, is that a first or second cousin?
Oh, it'd be
It's first cousin,
First
right.
cousin.
And is their last, what's their last name?
Stutesman.
Stutesman. So if we looked up Stutesman and Cummins, we still might find one.
Still
Yeah,
find one there.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And in fact, lots of Stutzmans in Fairview.
Hmm.
Well, I don't know, lots of them. No, I guess it wouldn't be now. My uncle's family mostly. My dad was one of 8 kids. My mother was one of 10 kids. And one of his brothers had like 12 kids.
Okay.
Wow.
Um,
Like today's standard. Although our
Yeah.
daughter's gonna have 5.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh my gosh.
But yeah, Roger showed me a picture of the family reunion, and I'll tell you, it looks like the Garrett Higgins composite.
It does, and you're like,
Yeah, there must have been, 20, 30
people there.
individuals
That's right.
there.
That's right. And that wasn't all of them.
So, yeah. Yeah, you're looking at your brother. So when were your parents married? Were they married in Cummins, or?
No, they were married in Indiana. My mother was from Indiana. I'm not sure. I think that they were married in some place like Mishawaka or some little
town?
yeah, that I have very little connection with in terms of family,
Right.
but my mother's family, I mean, have you heard of Shipshawana?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she went to high school there.
Okay. There's a fabric store there.
Oh, Shipshawana used to be a little town.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the movie Witness,
Mhm.
it had a large Amish population. The city fathers and mothers, not probably all fathers, talked to the men and talked to the Amish community and wanted to know if they were interested in participating in making Shipshawana into an Amish craft place.
Okay.
And this was at a time when there was, because of the movie Witness, there was an increased interest in the Amish communities, and the farmers, and the Amish have always been farmers, and they were starting to have a hard time making a living.
Making a living.
And so they needed a way to make a living that the bishop could approve of, and that was why. And now it's like on the interstate,
Mm-hmm.
on the toll road that goes, the Ohio-Indiana toll road.
Mhm.
Shipshawana has like 4 exits.
Oh.
Yes,
Huh.
and we have had 131,
Mhm.
which, comes
Right.
Yeah.
north and south through Three Rivers. We have had like 4 hotels built on the outskirts of Three Rivers. Within three, I mean, there's,
Yeah.
they're getting Three Rivers services.
Yeah.
Because of Shipshawana.
Oh.
Hmm.
As a place for people to stay who are going to include Shipshawana in their destination.
Huh.
Hmm.
And it's totally, the houses that my grandparents had and lived in are all shops now. My uncle, I have a cousin, this is my first cousin's son, still runs the pharmacy there. But it was always, when I went to college, my mother called the bank in Shipshawana and said, can we get a loan for Rebecca's college? And sure.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That was nice of them.
I mean, it's just, that was part of
Yeah.
it was family. And anyway, so.
Maybe we'll send this tape to Shipshawana.
Yeah, right. The Chamber of Commerce might like to hear. Now we know your dad ran the general store. I think Roger mentioned that your mother was a sales lady. In that picture with the car, she had a sales route She was selling ladies?
My mother before she got married.
Right.
It was between teaching and before she got married. She decided that she wanted to see the United States. And so she got a job with a company that was very paternalistic. And they hired sales ladies that were all very nice ladies. And they paired them up and sent them to various cities to go to working women. So they would go to department stores and office buildings. And they would talk to the sales ladies and to the secretaries. And they sold women's feminine needs. Which included Kotex and belts for pads. This was when those were new products.
Yeah.
And so they would go in and talk woman to woman about these needs.
Education.
And my mother bought a car to do this, and her brother Bill taught her how to drive, and she toured around the United States. I don't know how long she did this, but when she had seen all the states, all the 48, they ended up back in Chicago, and they were done. But before they went back home, these two young, very nice women said, "We want to see a burlesque show, but we want one that's not going to embarrass us." So they were in Chicago, and they went up to a cop, and they said, "We're two very, upstanding young ladies, but we would like to see a burlesque show, and we'd like to see one that would not embarrass us." And he said, "Follow me," and he took them to a theater where they saw, burlesque at that time was mostly people, like Burns and Allen.
Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy and skits.
Yeah.
And there might be some fan dancer in there, but that was it was not a strip joint.
Right.
It was not, bawdy. Anyway, so they saw that, and then they said, "Okay, now we're ready to quit and go home."
So when she started that tour, she left Michigan to
Indiana.
left Indiana then to do that.
Yeah.
She did all 48 states?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was probably still living with, she was undoubtedly still living with her parents who had moved from Shipshewana to Elkhart, because my grandfather was not a good farmer, and he hated it.
Okay.
And he had a hard time making a living, so they moved to Elkhart where he could get a better job, and I think for a while he was a bookkeeper, and later on I think he was a security guard or something. But my mother, there was in Elkhart at the time, there was a cafeteria that my mother and I think all of her sisters at one time or another worked in that cafeteria. It was a very family-oriented cafeteria owned by, a couple, and they took on all these young women practically as daughters. So even though my mother had all these experiences, she had them all in a very protected environment.
Right.
I mean, you think she was a traveling sales lady?
Yeah, right. And all the jokes. Yeah, exactly.
And all the jokes about those, and anyway, she always found an environment that was protected.
And then she met your
From,
father.
Right, and then she went with my father. And my mother was a woman who loved poetry, and she always wrote in her diary, and when she was in college, she started writing poetry. And then later in life, once the kids got to be the point where she wasn't, 24 hours a day being a mother, I mean, she had 4 kids in like 6 years.
Right.
And then she started writing poetry again.
Now Roger had some poetry in one of the books, but we didn't know.
No,
He didn't remember where that came from.
Well, I made a book for him. What is he talking about? He didn't know where it came from. I made a poetry book of my mother's poetry for him.
Okay, yeah. The book he remembered, but there were some other sheets that were in amongst the pictures that
That he didn't.
he didn't identify. So
Oh, really?
So the book he did remember, but
So maybe there's more poetry that I don't have.
that might
Or-
be a possibility.
Yeah, or either he didn't take the time to match it up with what was in the book.
Yeah, because the stuff's been kind of
Because we didn't look at the poetry book.
No.
Uh-huh.
First one. Was your mother's father, was your family Mennonites then, what are you saying?
Well, my grandparents were Amish,
Oh, okay.
but they had both left the community before I don't know if they left the community before, but they didn't get married in the Amish church. They got
Okay.
married in the Brethren church,
Hmm.
as I recall. I can look it up.
So, did you attend church in Roscommon when you were growing up?
Of course. You always attended church.
And which church would that have been?
It was probably the only Protestant church in town.
Well, there was a congregational church
It was probably congregational.
on South Main in George Street.
Probably. Okay, I haven't looked at this book for a while.
Yeah.
Hello.
My father's mother, his name was Rebecca King, and she was Amish. And she married Jeremiah Stutesman with a Z.
Okay.
And sometime after that, the Z became ES.
Mm.
Okay. So my grandmother, my father's mother was Amish when she got married. But I don't think that my mother's parents were Amish. 1722.
The book you're looking at is,
Descendants of Jacob Hostetler.
okay,
And both my parents are in there.
okay.
Roger mentioned
That's,
that.
yeah, Roger mentioned,
Something like that.
yeah.
No, they weren't. They were. They were probably Brethrens. They weren't. They weren't Amish.
Weren't Amish.
Right. The Amish broke off from the Mennonites. The Amish felt like the Mennonites were too worldly, so they broke off. It wasn't that the Mennonites came from the Amish; it was the other way
Oh,
around.
okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, the Brethren were more, what should we say, more worldly, they were more outgoing, they weren't,
Well,
weren't,
they had church buildings, and they had.
Right.
My mother, when she was, before she got married, this was in Elkhart. They were going to I think it may have been the Mennonite church, the Prairie Street Mennonite church. I can't remember. Anyway, she was told that she had a feather in her hat, or a flower in her hat, and she was told that was not appropriate, and so she stopped going to church.
Stop going to church.
And the bishop came to see her and said, if you're ready to come back to church,
Mm-hmm.
we're ready to have you. And she said, when you're as ready to talk to people in the congregation about how they talk as you are talking to me about how I dress, I'll come back to church.
Mm.
She was, and she considered herself shy.
Yeah.
Needless to say, she probably didn't go back to church. Because the bishop wasn't going to change. Yeah, at least not that church.
She was very, very strong in her faith. And when I was growing up, I was I was so jealous of her relationship with God,
Mm-hmm.
with Jesus, that I wouldn't.
Right, yeah.
It
You
ruined,
thought you were
it
second
ruined it for
fiddle.
me.
Yeah, it ruined it for you.
No, it didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
I have come back and I'm going to church now, but,
Yeah.
but it was, they were so much more, devoted. Anyway, so I didn't attend church for years. But I do think that the faith that they had, that my parents had, um, has affected me
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way. I have always felt that I didn't have to worry about things. Everything would work out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was because that's the way my parents operated, and they operated from that way on the basis of their faith.
Of the religious faith.
And
Right.
and so, you know, I could do things like pick up from Michigan and move out to California and not have a job, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and when my husband who, when we went out to California, it was because, you know, my husband wanted to be a writer, but he said he couldn't write here because he was his father was famous. He had a syndicated column that was all over the United States, and so Steve just felt like he would be in his father's shadow all the time. So I said, well, where do you want to go? And he said, well, I'd like to go to California. I said, well, go. Well, but how will we, you know, we had a baby and
Right.
I said, you go ahead. You go on out there, you get a job and get a place to stay, and, you know, and I'll bring Eric and the goods.
We'll hop on the next train.
No, I went to Detroit and got a car to drive.
Got a
out
car
there.
to drive on? Now, when was this?
Back in 57,
57?
58.
I could use philosophy like that right now.
And you know, and he would stay up nights worrying. I said,
Yeah.
what are you worried about? Well, I don't know what I'm. Just you know, go to sleep. It'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know, and it always did.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes. Shoot.
So you know, I'm grateful that my parents had that faith.
But if you remember going to church in Roscommon,
You know, I don't remember going to church
Yeah.
in Roscommon, but I know that my parents always went to church, so I'm sure we went to church in
probably
Roscommon.
went- yeah, but you don't remember. The reason I bring it up is because my uncle built the first Congregational church there.
Well, what's the other Protestant church?
That was it. There was
Well,
there was
so
a
that
Catholic
was it.
church. There was a Catholic church
So
and,
that's where we
and
went.
the Congregational church, and that was
So that's where we
to my
went.
knowledge, that was it.
Right. And I think that the one that we went to when we left Roscommon, and we went to Onstead, I think that community church was a good Congregational church.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only, you know, Protestant church in town. In
Mhm.
fact, there wasn't even a Catholic church.
Yeah.
They had to go up to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Yeah, that's
go
that's
there.
further north.
So,
So I think I asked you before, but do you remember palling around with any of your elementary school
well, there was one.
classmates?
There was one girl who was. See, I was in kindergarten for half a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was moved ahead to first grade, not because I was so brilliant, but they had to
They had to fill up the-
equalize the numbers of students in each class. And I was advanced enough to be able to handle it. So I didn't form any really close friends because, you know, we lived
Didn't have a
out-
chance.
No, we lived out in the country and
Once you got home, you were pretty isolated. from
yeah,
others.
but my sister had a friend. Let me see if I can find my sister again. There she is.
Okay, it's not in this one.
No, she's in this one. But she had a friend that used to come out. That may be her. We have a picture of her, and I don't have it, but there's a picture of her. She came out and stayed overnight, and she played with our buggy, and she was one of these girls who just automatically takes this
the
feminine
pose.
pose.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
dramatic.
Yes.
Mhm.
So here she is, you know, with this buggy for the camera.
Yeah.
And I don't remember even what her name was. Something unusual like Mardella or, you know, it wasn't that, but she was my sister's friend, not mine. Now I wonder, I'm gonna see if I can find me again. Where'd I go? Here I am. If I can find little Jimmy. But then he moved away, and I don't know, maybe he moved away before this.
Yeah, this was only 1 year.
So what's the name of the school?
Well, this was the Garish Higgins.
Garish?
Garish Higgins Consolidated Photograph.
Okay, but how do you spell Garish?
Gerrish.
Huh. I wonder
You
where
want to know how I know that?
Where does Garish come from? Garish come from?
That I don't remember, but it was somebody's name. I think it was early on.
Hmm. Oh, Billy. My goodness.
Is he still alive?
No, he died in 97. I came back in 95 and he died in 97.
So, do you remember anything about the town itself?
Well, let's see.
When you did come into town, obviously you had to come into school because there wasn't any schools outside of town.
Yeah, we came and I remember I had a brand new snowsuit, and we came into town and got gas, and I went into, and this was in the wintertime because I was wearing my snowsuit and I had a little peaked hat and hood, and I was standing, getting warm next to the stove inside, and I burned the seat out of my pants.
Your brand new snowsuit?
Brand new snowsuit. Burned the seat.
Oh my God.
Whoa!
Charred it.
Huh.
I don't think it never flamed.
Yeah,
Luckily, you
Boy.
but you got warm.
My seat got warm.
Your seat got warm.
Did your mother have to sew a patch
Oh
on
yeah,
it?
she did. She
Yeah.
sewed a patch on
Yeah.
it.
Oh boy.
You know, it wasn't as though we knew that we were poor,
Mhm.
but we knew not to ask for things that we didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
It made them feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
As if they could get it for us, we'd already have it.
Already have it.
Mhm.
But while we were there, while we lived in Onstead, or in Roscommon, we had the best Christmas ever. And I remember we went to, where would we have gone to Christmas shop?
Well,
Oh,
West Branch or Grayling.
I knew. I think it was West Branch.
Saginaw, if you really made a trip.
No, it wasn't. And anyway, we actually went shopping for Christmas presents. And that year, we had a real Christmas. That we had never had a Christmas like this.
Hmm.
My dad built that cupboard, that little cupboard.
This one?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That was a cupboard for our doll dishes, and he made a table, a children's
Yeah,
table.
children's table.
And he made each one of the 4 kids at that time a chair.
Hmm.
So there was this table and 4 chairs and the cupboard that Dad made in woodshop. And then Billy got an airplane that you put, a metal airplane,
Yeah.
wingspan about
Yeah.
2 feet, and you put the fuselage on and turn it.
Right.
He got that airplane. Donna and I each got dolls,
Hmm.
and Roger got a tricycle.
Wow.
That was a Christmas. No, Billy got a train set. He got the plane at my grandmother's.
Can you take a picture of the cupboard?
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I want to take a picture of the cupboard is that
It was made in
Well, no, we got a little closer connection. Uh, Dyer had wood shop from your father, and he built a little rack.
Who did?
I'm blocking on his first name, but I'll come up with it.
Okay.
Dyer was his last name, anyways. And my father had him as a student, and as the story goes, convinced him to go into science. So as a career, he became a geologist, and he was responsible for most of northern Michigan. But anyways, he didn't get my dad for wood shop, because my dad left that year, so he had your father for wood shop, and he still has this little shelving unit in his bathroom, which I took a picture of.
Really?
So, I mean, you're talking about a small world.
Going.
Sid Dyer.
Yeah.
Sydney. Sid Dyer.
Yeah.
And so he built his own house up there on the banks of the El Sabo in Roscommon.
Uh-huh.
So, but and he obviously remembers, taking wood shopping about it, because he look at the shelving unit and says, "Oh, I know where that came from."
Wow.
No, but yeah.
You have a picture of it somewhere.
Yeah, I think I might have a picture of it with me. So you finished the 3rd grade in Roscommon, and then you moved down to Onstead, and you graduated high school there? No?
Went through 8th grade.
8th grade.
4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I think I went through 4th grade at Roscommon.
Okay.
Because I think we were in Onstead for 4 years, and that would have been 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We
Right.
came here when I went into the 9th grade.
Okay. So you may have gone through 4th grade then.
Yeah.
Okay. So that might give me another picture to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you remember?
Is there any place where there's a roster of the teachers?
Yeah.
Was there a Miss Moon?
That I don't know, but I
Or
can
Mrs.
look up.
Moon?
Ms. Moon. What grade do you think that would have been?
I don't know. Probably 2nd, 3rd, or 4th.
Yeah.
Oh.